we can use the other mic, I think that's you'll have to hold it.
I won't talk much about JX experiences because I think 20 minutes would be a bit too short. Just go on and go on. I will talk actually when PUDR contacted me and what I feel I could contribute to the movement for the release of political prisoners. What I see in practical terms, non-political terms, non-legal terms, how the movement of political prisoners could go ahead. Actually, the best discussions I've had on this topic is, actually that's my good luck also, to have it in jail where you are surrounded around 100, 120 political prisoners. So that pressure to think about ideas, to think about issues, to understand the problem is omnipresent. In 2008, 2009, when I was in prison, there were two there was a meeting with, I think it was held in Bombay with PUDR, HRF, CPDR, and many organizations got together and they were working on a strategy for the release of political prisoners. And around the same time also, there was another meeting of CRPP where CRPP was born in that meeting and the issue of political prisoners also came out. So we in jail we got both these drafts and some questions raised by HRF or by other organizations, some demands put forward by CRPP and various organizations like that. And we had in jail had a series of discussions about what we saw as political prisoners. And at that time also I was doing a small postgraduate human rights course and I was lucky to have Dr. Ujjwal Kumar Singh's book with me on political prisoners in India. So we had a theoretical, historical background, the context, the situation, and we were in jail to talk about all these issues. So today I will briefly talk about what we discussed there. Actually for us, I feel the issue of political prisoners can be centered around three issues. The first, I'll talk about the question of recognition of political prisoners. Now see, this is, I won't go into the details of it, but this has been a topic started off by Bhagat Singh's famous strike during 1929 when they asked for the recognition of political prisoners status, and along with that there was some demands for the improvement of jail conditions. At that time, the status, there were two types of status, one with regards to the European prisoners and one with regards to natives. So at that time, asking for a separate status was in a sense what I see it as a anti-colonial, anti-racist type of demand. Is that you say that we too should be seen as power there. So that sense was in a sense the driving force behind a demand at that time. But down the years, there was the category of political prisoners actually watered away. Means the government started to, they kept it. In 1947 also, some categories like satyagrahis or conspiracy prisoners, some such things were kept, but categories started going down, and by the 1960s, in most states, a special category, the classification of political prisoners actually was out. In some states, obviously, like the West Bengal and few other states, they still have a category or have enacted new laws for the category of political prisoners. But what I would see as the reason for me asking for a recognition of political prisoners. Now, any classification has to be reasonable. The classification that we demand also has to be reasonable. Our reasonableness of the classification that we are asking that we should be recognized is that the government itself treats us differently. The government itself, from the point we enter, like I've written in my book, I've spoken earlier in meetings in Delhi also, is that from the time we enter into jail till the time we are bailed or at least finally acquitted, is at every stage we are treated differently. I'll give the example of Maharashtra. When we went into jail, we were got into jail, either we are categorized as Tada, or we will be categorized as Naxalwadi, or there are cases on the board of the jail, they would be writing Atangwadi cases. So in Atharod jail, you get, at that time when we went to jail, we had about 120, 130 100 trials of the Mumbai bomb blast, you get 120, 130 whatever Atangwadis on the list of the book. So informally, the state is already categorizing us as a separate category. When we were in Nagpur jail, we were given what's called a green patti to wear on our clothes. This goes on even for British times that the seditionists had to wear S when they were in Kalabani, or the conspiracy case prisoners had to wear C on their shirts. But in Nagpur jail, when we were Nagpur jail, we had to wear green bands saying, this is Naxalwadis were different. And anybody who has been in jail would know that हर शाम को हर रात को गिनती होता है ये बंदी के बाद. So the categories would be very clearly specified that you would count, say in a barrack of say 100 people, you would say 2500 trials, 25 convicts, 25 Atangwadis, 25 Naxalwadis. So the practice is that the state de facto categorizes you, the state de facto treats you differently. With regards to the judicial process, I won't talk of it much more because now there are special laws for Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, or the use of DOCA or things like that, or even not even the use of laws. Now the state is going into a policy of having to treat political prisoners, or as they so-called themselves, terror cases. The recent law commission even talks about abolishing death penalty except for those who are convicted in terror crimes. So the entire approach of the state is to say that these people are separate, these people are different, these people are waging a war against the state, these people have done crimes of sedition, these people have done crimes of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, we should treat them differently. So my reason out here is that if you are saying that we are different, then at least recognize us as a different category, as a political prisoners category. That is very simple. But there is where the state doesn't want to. It works on the same principle like the state, although it will fight numerous internal wars within the country, in Kashmir, in Northeast, in Bandakara, Bihar, Jharkhand, but the state will never admit, both internationally and nationally, that they are fighting wars. They will always say, no, it is an internal problem. Because once they say they are fighting an internal war, they have to go into a certain categories, they have to give human rights to the prisoners, to the people who are caught in the war conflict areas. So it is a similar situation like that. The state de facto has a certain practice, has a certain way of conducting things, but when it comes to giving people rights, that's where the state actually does not want to declare it, and there the essence of recognition of political prisonerhood, I see is a very important demand. Although because in some states they have a separate category. For example, as President Wallace, my colleague will say, is that they have a special category out there, and slowly they try to alienate some people from that category. But in other states, like for example in Maharashtra, there is no categorization of that. So there, what do we ask? We are just asking for that we should be, if you are treating us differentially, if you are keeping people like me, or like Sai Baba, or the recently convicted 711 accused, they have been kept for only 9 years in what's called the Anda Valley, the people who got convicted yesterday. So if you're having a differential treatment for them, then you should be willing to recognize them as different, and you should be willing to recognize them as political. So for me, this thing is a very important essence of the demand for political prisoner, is to be recognized as well. The second point is that in jail actually we had a discussion about what are the specific rights to a political prisoner. Should we ask for a table? Should we ask for a chair? Should we ask for a pot? Should we ask for 3 or 4 papers? Should we ask for a pen? Should we ask for paper to write? But in a sense, these are demands that all prisoners should get. All prisoners should get a pot. All prisoners should get a chair. All prisoners should get paper, pen, things to write, things to read, TV to see. All these are things. So what in essence is the question of political prisoners? I don't know. Some of you all know in law there is a judgment in 1974. There's a judgment in 1974 by Justice Chandrachud. It was a 3-judge bench where it's a very strange, difficult way to read it. It's a very strange judgment because some political prisoners from the jails in Andhra Pradesh, Visakhapatnam, right to the Supreme Court is where the government the jail authorities put electrical fences over the prison walls. So the political prisoners raise a very interesting argument saying that, an electrical fence there would amount to certain debt, and escape from prison is a maximum sentence of 2 years. So the electrical fence is very unreasonable. Anyway, the judgment was thrown out. This judgment was thrown out. But the interesting observations made by a bench of there said that political prisoners, by a matter of their belief, cannot be quarantined. I think so for me, that is a very essential thing, because the British policy of a septic tank, that to keep political prisoners away from the general population, keep them isolated, see that their fragrance does not reach, see that their politics does not reach the other prisoners. That is a policy which has been continued from the British time and is continuing till now. And that is the government's policy every single place. Sai Baba was never threatened that he would jump the walls or because the Nagpur Anda Barrack has a unique facility that it has to enter a cell in Anda Barrack, you will have to pass to 5 or 6 cases. I don't think so Sai Baba had that problem. The bigger problem they had is that his views, his politics, his ideas should not be allowed to spread to the general population. So that is, in a sense, a British policy which has been continued now, and in every single jail, be it regards to Maoist prisoners, be it regards to other Muslim prisoners accused in terror cases, all such prisoners, by some hook or crook, are kept in places where they cannot be in touch with the general population. This is a principle followed by the state, or the septic tank principle, which is now, you could say, is the quarantining of the prisoners, separating them from the rest of the population. I don't know how many of you all are aware. At present, there is a Muslim prisoner in Adoro jail in Bombay. His name is Zabir. He has been kept in a lockup which is kept for, it was paid for Ajmal Dasar. He has been kept for 33 months now. Anybody who knows law knows that Sunil Batra says, the judgment says that no one will be kept in some but this person has been kept in a single cell. This cell has no windows. For 37 days. For 37 days. This cell is made of different layers of copper, layers of cement, layers of another metal. I don't know how many metal. So reports say about 7 to 10 layers of different metals. Outside the building is enclosed in a glass case. This person is allowed. I don't know if you have seen the road. Hollywood movies, the only door is like a latch where food comes in. So he's kept in a cell like that for 33 months, and he's on a hunger strike for 37 days right now. And the logic of the government is that we're keeping him there for his own safety. So this actually it's a fraud. It's a fake logic. It's a logic that we see this man very dangerous. His ideas, I don't know about his ideas. I'm not going to comment on his ideas. I may not believe in his ideas also. But I think so that if you are considering him to be a political prisoner, he has a right to be kept with others. And that, in a sense, I think so, is the biggest demand of a political prisoner, is not to be quarantined. This is a specific demand. See, compared to all other demands of a normal prisoner, the political prisoner's demand is not to be quarantined. In the case of, say, my case, or Sai Baba's, or Zabir's case, there are many cases like that where prisoners are kept like this. I don't know the situation in Bihar jail, but what I've heard of the case of Kovar Gandhi or the others, it's a similar situation out there, and it has been going on in all the countries, the rest of the country. So this type of demand, I think, is very essential, and it's one of the core demands for a political prisoner. The last question which I would talk about is, which anybody is familiar with, the last demand was the question of the unconditional release of political prisoners. I don't know, but if you do a normal Google check nowadays, a search, and you get to know that many people are speaking of political prisoners nowadays. In fact, I think so. There may be lots of funds coming in from foreign countries, allowing whatever NGOs to talk on the subject much more, because the talk of political prisoners has become much more. But when it comes to the question about what you want from a political prisoner, what is your essential demands, many of the people in this so-called NGO circuit who want to fight for political prisoners for a fair trial to be given to political prisoners. Actually, that's where we should differ from these type of sections, is that when we ask for the unconditional release, is that if we believe is that these political prisoners have been put in this case not only wrongly, but by wrong laws, but by a wrong state of MFS, by a wrong system, then we should definitely and straightly demand asking for a very clear unconditional release. The question of fair trial, actually, when coming by train, I just got the news of the 7/11 last convicts, which I think so all of you have read about it. Probably my friend also will talk about much more. The 7/11 last day, that is what I want to talk about a bit, because it in a sense talks about this unconditional release of political prisoners. This is a group of young Muslim boys. They were members of civil, and they are committed boys. They are ready to fight each and everything very strongly. In fact, at one time in jail, they were bashed up by the jail authorities just because they were willing to fight on every issue. They had made numerous RTIs, and they had unearthed lots of corruption scandals and everything, and just because of that, the jail student at that time, I think so it was 2009 or 2008, bashed them up, got them transferred into various jails. But when I was in Nagpur jail, 3 boys from there came into my barrack. Those 3 are convicted now. And I had lots of interesting discussions with them. But throughout the case, in fact, I'll talk about 2 or 3 major struggles of the case, which in a sense it was so true, so right. They fought all these 9 years with the only single hope that in the end they'll get a fair trial. And yesterday was the net result. For nearly 2 years, they fought for the fact that on them MOCA was put, POCA was put, and also whatever unlawful activities prevention act. They fought for the fact that if you are putting unlawful activities prevention act on us, which is the so-called, the main so-called whatever anti-terror law, then we should not be doing MOCA, because it's meant for gangsters who are into monetary deals and all that. No, but it went from the High Court to the Supreme Court. Shahid Azmi was one of the lawyers who was fighting it out. Ultimately, it was thrown out. The case was stayed for almost 2.5 years. It came back, the trial started. Another big fight which they had right up to the Supreme Court was the question of the call detail records. The government talks about the call detail. The government talks about these 12 people being in the trains, being in so-and-so places. Being in the trains, being in 3 or 4 places there, and as proof they say, we have the call detail records, the CPDRs. During the trial, the prosecution, the defense asked that, show us your call detail records. And basically the prosecution says, no, we have lost them, it has got burned while shifting the office and all that. Interestingly, these boys, through RPIs, managed to get out some details, and they get the company through a court order to issue the call detail records. The call detail records showed them to be in a different place, as not shown by the prosecution. But still, I don't know what happened later on, but still after all these years, they get convicted. So that was another item. So that entire struggle to fight to get those CDRs, that also lasted for about 1.5 years. So they have been struggling in the past 9 years just for a single wish that they should get a fair trial. And what happened, I said yesterday to very briefly, it is a situation where a collective conscience has prevailed, and the government has been pushed into a situation, or the judiciary has been pushed into a situation. It is better to satisfy the conscience of the collective and sacrifice young boys. So, as I see, to just summarize, the issue of political prisoners would briefly touch 3 things. One is the question of recognition of political prisonerhood. The second is that would demand that we should not be quarantined. That's the second demand. And the third demand, as I would see it, is to to believe in the unconditional release of all people.